Do you know what I just realised in that little telling off that you gave me in the kitchen just now?
You maybe want to explain what I told you off about?
I will, but I just realised you're Batman and I'm the Joker. You think you're better than me, but you're one bad day from being me. Like, that's it. Like, that's all it is. You think you're better, but you're not. You're just as dark as I am. You just don't do it out loud.
That's probably true.
I'm just saying, you're not better than me.
I didn't say I'm better than you.
He gave me this long-winded story about some other podcaster who talks like they're 15 and that they're rude and they're crass and that it turns...
No, it wasn't. It was somebody who was a
off.
guest on Brett Goldstein's podcast, and he was a little bit blue, let's put it that way.
And he's like saying to me, and I've just sort of figured out that it turns me off, and I think it turns people off, and I'm like, what are you trying to say? And he's like, I'm not trying to say anything. Let's try not to talk like that. And all I'd said was, oh, I won't say it because we're not doing that on the podcast
that would be
anymore.
the point. No, but I think that if you're gonna make sex jokes, at least have them be like clever and funny as opposed to.
Oh, so now I'm not clever.
No, I didn't say that. I'm still talking about this fellow.
Okay, you have to preface.
Yes, no, but it was a little bit
All
teenagery. Yeah,
right, I understand.
A little bit juvenile.
That. So I've taken the insult. I mean the feedback. And would you like me to start the cold open, which is not nearly as interesting as this argument?
Okay, please do. Go ahead,
Johnny. You want to hear the most boring question that I've ever asked you, and I'm going to ask you, but it was the only thing I could come up with. But I think you'll make it interesting.
Corduroy.
If you could go. That could actually be an answer to this question. Okay. So you're not as far off as you think. If you could go back in time and change something, what would it be? And sub-question, if you could change something in a movie, like you could go back in time and you could change one movie.
Oh God, I'm going to start fucking talking about No Time to Die again, aren't I?
Oh fuck, I didn't even think about that. I was like thinking he's going to go back and he's going to right the wrongs of Star Wars or something. I don't know. Yeah, okay. No, but that's a valid answer. Okay, so first
I want to get real with you for a second.
All right.
Because later on in this episode, we're going to be talking about the new Scream movie.
Yeah.
And I remember I was talking to my wife last night, and I remembered something that you never talk about.
Oh, you guys still talk to each other?
Yeah, we do.
It's impressive to
funny
me.
That, yeah,
it's great. Josh won't talk to me anymore unless it's something to do with her.
Yeah, we've been together for like 9 years now, and
conversation's still flowing. So we've been together for 10 years, and that's conversation. Is that what I just said?
Yes.
I know, meant to. Go on.
Okay. So it's something that you never talk about because you always bring up the clown story.
Okay.
But you never bring up the fact that I went to Watford Market and bought myself a ghost-faced costume, and that I hid in the closet and jumped out at you when I was like 15.
I talk about it a lot. I just thought that when bringing it up on the podcast, the clown mask.
Yeah.
So like I thought you felt really bad about that, and after listening to that episode back and hearing how horrified you were with yourself, I was like, I'm not going to bring that up. Okay, so you brought it up now.
Okay, so there's a lot of things in life that that I say to myself, I don't want to change that built me up as a person, that contributed to who I am today, and I'm very happy with who I am today. I'm very happy with my life. But those are a couple of things that I would definitely want to go back and change. I would want to meet my former self, give myself a slap around the face and say, oi, stop being such a dick to your brother.
So I wouldn't change that though. I know that sounds weird, but I wouldn't change that because I think that it's definitely informative of how much, like, first of all, how much I like horror movies as well.
Yeah.
But like, I think it would be nice if I were to stop saying the word like.
I figured out that I need to stop saying, I say that a lot on the podcast. Now
this is some feedback.
And now people are gonna, point it out,
I need to stop saying basically.
It's going to sorry, listeners, this is going to ruin this podcast for you. Like the 8 listeners that we have.
Let's do a feedback session live. Item 1. So, okay, so where were we? No, wait, stop. Don't go off the rails because this is important.
Okay, right.
So what he did was he got you got the costume. You got it at Watford Market, right?
Right. I don't know how long I waited.
You also bought a retractable knife blade.
Oh yes, I did.
Which scared the crap out of me because I didn't know that existed. I don't think.
Right.
And so but here's the worst thing about what you did because you did but there's a revenge story here as well. Is that you put the costume in my wardrobe at one point. And just left the bottom tassel bits hanging out. And you were somewhere else in the house. And I was supposed to be going to sleep. And I was literally just crying because I thought you were in there. You were going to come out.
Oh my God, I was such a fuckhead.
Hang on a minute. So what I did was I went into your room because I got home before you one day. I went into your room, I took the costume and I put it on and I waited for you in the toilet and you came home and I jumped out at you from the toilet and scared the shit out of you. Do you remember that?
No, but I do remember that our sister, the younger of the two, so I hid in the shower and I was trying to scare her and she knew I was there and she went, I can see you. And then later on that night, I went into the bathroom and she jumped out and grabbed me by the shoulders and made me jump 6 feet in the air. So
you're right, you little shit.
There you go.
But I'm saying I wouldn't change that sort of thing because I think that we started off as very sort of antagonistic and there was a lot of like masks and windows that got broken and all sorts of accidents and horrible things. But then we started going to the coffee shop together and sort of I started drawing. And you started.
We were definitely friends before that, but we had like these intervals of. I mean, look, I can sum it up in looking at my kids that they absolutely love each other 1 second, and then the next second he's like grabbing her head, and I'm going, "Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!" And then he carries on doing it, and then he giggles, and then she starts crying, and then she starts giggling. It's completely like it's like a roller coaster, up down.
No, but
up,
I
down.
know a lot of siblings who aren't as close as we are now.
Right.
So I do think that there's definitely a lot of advantages.
I used to edit those movies for you, and we were talking about
the Back to the Future and the one
V8,
with the
GoldenEye. No.
Not the ones that we made. The ones that you would edit down. The ones that I would
edit down so that you could watch them.
They would make no sense. Yeah.
That's not a boring question. What are you talking about?
Well, no, because it's like if you could have any superhero power, what would it be? Like a lot of people.
I think there are no boring questions, only boring answers.
That was a boring answer. So if you could change something in a movie, what would it be? I won't ask you because it's No Time to Die, or you've got something else. You've thought of something else. You've had time.
No, I haven't had time. I think there are a huge amount of things that I would change in a lot of different movies. And No Time to Die, we had a 3-hour double episode on that.
Is there something in the movie industry you would go back and change? Like, for example, like a director, like who was it in the third Alien movie? Would have been completely Richard Donner.
Yeah. I would go back and try and prevent the whole Superman 2 debacle from happening. Because when I see what it could have been, versus what it turned out to be. I mean, I used to love Superman 2 when I was a kid, but that would probably be it. I'd probably I would bring justice for Superman 2 that could have been.
That is an interesting and okay answer. And I'm ready to roll the intro, Bartholomew! What's our seat number? Hello and welcome to What's Our Seat Number, the podcast that makes welcome use of the trusty question mark. Here, listen to this. Ready? I'm Rod Burgundy. I'm Simon Gross. You can call me Cy. I make games and 3D models, plus I used to do VFX when I still had a fringe and when I could still go potty without a toddler asking me what I'm doing, what time it is, or if they can have a sodding biscuit. With me is Johnny Gross, a filmmaker, film watcher, nudie picture ogler, and the human answer to the facepalm emoji.
Thank you for that wonderful intro.
You're welcome.
Today we are going to be talking about The Time Machine from the year 2002, starring Guy Pearce, Samantha Mumba, and Jeremy Irons, and Mark Addy.
Why'd you say it like that?
Well, because he's in a bit part. It's he's not in it very much, but anyway, he's great. I love Mark Addy, especially in A Knight's Tale, which is something that we should talk about at some point.
Yes,
because apparently it is not very well liked, and I don't understand why. Because it's a delightful movie. Anyway, sorry, I digress. The film is The Time Machine is directed by Simon Wells. A little bit of trivia there. He is actually the great-grandson of author H.G. Wells, who wrote the original novel on which the movie is based. So we will be talking about that. I also just want to thank everybody in the audience for choosing us because, everyone and their mum's got a podcast nowadays.
Like who?
Podcasters.
And?
Podcasters' mums.
Very good.
Thanks. We will also be talking about the latest Scream movie. At the end of the podcast, there will be spoilers. So once you get to the end and we say, hi, this is the bonus part where we were going to be talking about the new Scream movie, you can just turn it off.
Or if you've seen the movie, don't and listen to what we have to say about it.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, that's only if you haven't seen the movie. Don't turn off the podcast if you've seen the movie.
Don't do that. Why would you want to do that? What are you crazy?
Absolutely. I don't know. So this week's movie news, we're not doing that.
Why not?
because there's not any movie news.
I have some.
It's a bit rubbish. Oh, you've got movie news?
Well, I mean, I have something that is tangentially connected to.
Are you
movie news.
encroaching on my segment?
Well, I wanted to add. Do you know what it is? It's bits of tid, size tidbits. Okay, so this actually is a piece of news that comes from my good friend No Pogo, who is a streamer. He's a programmer, game developer. He's working on a game, and it's just check him out, nopogo_TV. If you go to Twitch, you can find him. But he told me about this, and this made me laugh. So you know how the new Dune movie came out, right?
Is it Dune or June?
Dune or Dune?
June.
June. So basically, this is the story, and it comes from a tweet from Gary Brannon. I have genuinely spent 10 minutes staring at this, but no, it really does appear to be true that a bunch of crypto bros just spent 2.6 million euros, 100 times the asking price, for a book at auction in the mistaken belief that they would therefore own the copyright to it. So the book was Dune, and here's the original tweet. We won the auction for 2.66 million euros. Now our mission is to make the book public to the extent permitted by law, produce an original animated limited series inspired by the book and sell it to a streaming service, support derivative projects from the community. Now, this just made me laugh because
this
it's like
means that I have the rights to several books.
Right, I was like, they bought the book at auction. No, I just thought it was funny. It's not really movie news, but it's tangentially, as I said, connected to movies.
It's a good one. It's a good one. I like
it.
Like
made
that.
me laugh, and I thought I'd bring it up on the podcast. Anyway, so we're not doing movie news.
What are the
we
names
gonna
of these
do?
guys? Harry Dunn and Lloyd Christmas?
Might as well be.
Might
My. Just to be clear, Gary Brannon is not the guy who did this. Like he was just the guy who retweeted it.
Yeah, I got that.
To be clear.
Yeah.
Oh man. Anyway, so yeah, that's me. Off you go.
Okay.
There's no movie news. So what do we have in place?
Hello, Sydney.
Who's there?
You should never say who's there. Don't you watch scary movies? It's a death wish.
What do you want?
I want to play a game.
It's called Crazy Casting with K's. Scream Edition. So this week we are going to do the Scream Edition. What?
Nothing. Go on.
We are going to do the Scream Edition of Crazy Casting with K's because at the end of the episode we will be talking about the latest Scream movie. So these are some crazy castings for the original Scream.
Mm-hmm.
The reason being because I couldn't find any for the Time Machine. So there you go.
Very good.
Okay, here is your first crazy casting.
Right.
And for anybody who's new and doesn't know what this is, Sai has to guess the actor that was almost cast in the role that I'm going to mention. So your first question is this. This John Hughes star was offered the role of Sydney, but turned it down due to having 27 candles already and didn't want to play a teenager anymore. Who is it?
You'd have to have seen 27 Candles.
Well, no, the movie is called 16 Candles.
16
but
Candles?
It's a hint.
Johnny, I don't know.
You don't know?
I haven't seen it. I also, John Hughes,
No, you don't know who Molly Ringwald is?
I know the name.
Okay.
All
right.
That one is probably lost on me. I'm afraid.
Okay, well, that's an okay.
Technically, it shouldn't be an it should be a...
I was trying to pick the ones that I thought you might have a chance at knowing, so...
What is wrong with you today?
What? No, because... What do you mean, what is wrong with me today? No, because
I
there
thought
are...
that you might have a chance at getting.
No, but there are certain people that the name you would probably never have heard of, and you would say to me, I've never heard of that person. And
like in this case, Molly Ringwald.
Indeed, and I was trying to think of the ones that you had heard of. What's
right,
what's
well,
the
problem is with you then. Not being able to guess what I know and don't know. Oh, wait, no, I ruined it.
Just...
Soda.
Okay, your second one. This actor turned down the role of Billy Loomis. That's a thumbs down for this movie, but his career wasn't affected as he made his name playing a country superstar, a disturbed party performer, and a writer in love with Siri.
I'll
say it again.
One more time. Yeah, no, I think I know who it is.
Thumbs down.
Mm-hmm.
A disturbed party performer. Another name for that
Joaquin
could be...
Phoenix?
There you go! Very good. Well done.
Can I have a ding, ding, ding?
Yeah, I'm going to give you a ding,
All
ding,
right.
ding.
I probably got it already.
You got it already, but like, I mean, this is, in the future you're getting it.
Great.
Right. Okay. Number 3. Jinkies. This actor originally went up for the role of Stu, but his Mystery Machine cohort got the role instead. And no, I'm not talking about the dog. I mean the other one.
Freddie Prinze Jr.?
Correct!
Hey!
Well done. Hey. I'm very happy you got that. This actress was a victim of intended cruelty and is legally allowed to have blonde hair. But did you know that she turned down the lead role of Sydney? Very good. Well done. Correct. Let me finish the question.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, how rude.
That's Blockbusters.
Rude. Please let me finish the question. You're like a bad-tempered English teacher.
I'm a bad-tempered Bob Holness. And your final question. This actor was up for the role of Randy, but instead played a son with a complicated relationship to his evil medical practitioner father.
I know who it's. The name's gone. Hang on. He was in Buffy. I know who. Seth Green.
Correct!
Hey!
Hey, you got 4 out of 5. That's excellent.
Oh, thank you for
and
the
your
grade,
prize
Jonathan.
is...
Don't touch me.
There's no prize.
That was a really good crazy cut. No, just because I
you
got them right.
Yeah, because you got them all right.
No, but also though, it was like that curve that I feel that I can sort of, when you get Wordle right and you feel like it was, you got
Are
it.
you also doing that?
Everyone's doing
it. It's a pandemic in and of itself.
Like when you don't get them, so you just don't tell anyone that you did it that day, and then you get really annoyed. You're like, it was super unfair. It was really difficult. And then when you get it in like 3 or something, you're like, it was really good today. It was really...
So there you go. My first 3, I got 3 out of 3. And then since then, the last few days have been absolutely abysmal.
Suspiciously that you're not posting on Facebook every day anymore.
Right, indeed. Okay, so that was Crazy Casting with K's, and that was the Scream edition. Once again, I will remind you to check out our Scream discussion later on in the podcast. And now I'm going to move on straight to a time machine related game, which is the Tagline Game. This is the one that you dislike because
there's no way to know.
There's no way to know.
There's
well,
no
I mean,
way to know.
You use logic and stuff. But no, you try and...
What's the problem today?
What's the matter with you?
What's the matter with me? You're having such a go at me today.
I'm not. You try and figure out what could possibly be the closest to it.
Go on.
All right.
But you choose ones that could be really, really close. So it's like, unless I know that it's the tagline for another movie.
If I just said to you, check out The Time Machine this summer, then you'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the tagline game. No, so the tagline game is when I give Sai 3 taglines, and he has to work out which is the correct tagline to the movie in question, in this case, The Time Machine 2002. So, your first tagline is, The Greatest Adventure Through Time.
Mm-hmm. That could be any time machine, time travel movie. Go on.
Correct. Number 2, The Ultimate Weapon, The Ultimate Hero, The Adventure Begins, One Step Back in Time.
Okay.
And the third one is, You Will Orbit into the Fantastic Future. One of those 3. Would you like me to give them to you again?
One more time very quickly.
The Greatest Adventure Through Time. Mm-hmm. It's in capital letters, so you have to emphasize it. Mm-hmm. The Ultimate Weapon, The Ultimate Hero, The Adventure Begins, One Step Back in Time. Mm-hmm. That's a New Girl reference, by the way.
Yeah, I got it.
The Adventure Begins. You will orbit into the fantastic future.
I think it's fine. It really doesn't matter. It's the first one.
Correct.
Really?
Ding, 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 ding. You're only going to enjoy the game if you get it right. This is what I'm realizing.
Have you never played games with me before?
We did. We used to play the Dick Tracy board game, the Star Trek board game.
I don't like to lose.
Ghost Castle. Do you remember Ghost Castle? Wow.
That's
I remember
Ghost
Castle.
Yeah.
80s. My goodness. So, that was the tagline game. You want to hear what they were? The Time Machine 2002, The Greatest Adventure Through Time. The ultimate weapon, the ultimate hero, the adventure begins one step back in time was Biggles, which you still haven't seen, but whatever. That's also a time travel movie. We should watch that at some point, because that is a movie that you haven't seen that I have, that is critically derided and is absolute shite, but is absolute fun. And I'm interested to see how you react to it.
Okay.
So we'll do that at some point. And You Will Orbit into the Fantastic Future is The Time Machine 1960.
Oh. See, I was going to choose either the first one or the third one.
Well, there you go. You have a sense of it.
No, I shot in the dark.
Shot in the dark.
Yeah.
Just another
Well,
shot in the
it didn't make sense to
dark.
me that weapon, because he's like, it's not a. Well, I mean, he does kind of use it as a weapon in the. Oh, whatever. It doesn't matter. Anyway, go.
Yeah. Okay.
Context?
Yes. There we go. Context. Let's have a little chat about context.
All right.
Where did you? No. Well, I'll just repeat that. Well, no.
With words.
With
preferably.
words. Yes. Let's start again. So let's talk about your context for this movie. What do you remember about seeing this movie when you were younger?
So for me, it was So I don't know if. Well, I mean, they're not going to arrest you for this all these years down the line. But you burned it onto a CD for me, and I watched it over and over again on my IBM.
Your IBM.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I had a hoop.
A hup, yeah, a hup.
I had a hoop.
Should we maybe say what that is?
I had an HP and you had an IBM.
IBM, yeah. What's the matter with
what's the
everyone? I
matter?
don't know. Nothing. What's the matter with you? Fuck.
Go on.
Yeah. So you burned it for me on, and I
You
used to watch
burned
it.
me.
I used to watch it with friends. I used to watch it by myself. I really liked it because you gave me like a respectable collection of movies, like CDs and stuff. There's a few of them that
I was like your dealer.
You were. Yeah, so I watched it. I remember not understanding the conversation at the end with
Right.
the Uber Morlock, because I think that at the age of what was I when I watched it for the first time? What was I, like 12 something?
Maybe. Was it like around
'Cause
maybe
it-
2004, 2003?
Yeah. Because like I didn't watch it when it came out. Like it was later, it was a bit sort of. I want to say I wasn't smart enough to understand it. But anyway, and as I watched it more and more, I started understanding it a bit more. I was like, okay, that's really cool. I haven't watched it actually since then, I don't think.
Really?
Yeah, I haven't watched it recently, but I remember it really well.
Mm-hmm.
And I still have a fondness for it. I think this is something that actually Nopogo was saying to me the other day. He was saying that he has like movie suggestions for the podcast,
Right.
but he's not sure that they're right for us because we're sort of peddling nostalgia.
Comment on the page.
So
Let us know.
I told him to anyway, but like I think it's like really true that a lot of the movies that we watch have some kind of root in our brain. I don't know if this is a good movie or not. I don't know if it was critically acclaimed or panned or whatever.
It wasn't.
But,
It was pretty widely panned, and I'm not quite sure why.
maybe we'll see today.
Maybe I also haven't seen it in quite a while, but I did watch it a lot back then.
Mm-hmm.
And I had it on DVD. Now I've bought the Blu-ray. It's only just been released on Blu-ray. What took you so long, Paramount? I think actually Paramount just recently acquired all of DreamWorks' catalogs, so they've started releasing things like The Saint and What Lies Beneath. Like there are lots of Eurotrip as well. Like a bunch of things that just haven't ever been released on Blu-ray.
Eurotrip.
Yeah, Eurotrip.
Dumb movie. This is where I parked my car. Anyway, DeGraw.
Yeah, so I remember watching it and really loving it. I had seen the 1960 version several times on TV. I liked the flashy pyrotechnics of the 2002 version. I like Guy Pearce. I remember watching Memento and LA Confidential and just being like, this guy is brilliant. And I also like the sort of this movie was kind of meta before meta was a thing, like the sort of self-referential kind of, the Orlando Jones plays this hologram called Vox in the future, and he's sort of like the public librarian, hologram kind of thing. And Alexander, played by Guy Pearce, goes and asks about time travel, and Vox lists off a whole load of time travel related media, including the time machine. And it's just very interesting that they go into the future and they show like the moon being colonized and the moon breaking up and all sorts of things that are relevant to 2002. That obviously H.G. Wells wouldn't have known about back in 1895 when he wrote the original novel. So it's very interesting to see how they managed to take that and expand on it. And also
I've never thought of that.
And also the love story as well is something that's added in to give the movie emotional stakes that it wasn't present in the original movie and wasn't present in the original book. And I just found it really interesting, and I think that it's a forgotten gem to my mind. I think it's a really great movie that was completely and utterly disregarded on release. I also think that people didn't appreciate the fact that H.G. Wells' great-grandson directed it.
Yeah.
And
I didn't know that until you told me last week.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did you know that he was also a director of animation? He co-directed Prince of Egypt. And Balto and Fievel Goes West he directed.
Wow, my mind is exploding.
He also, this is going to make you,
Okay. What, Johnny? Say something crass. I dare you.
Yes. This is going to make you very excited indeed.
Go on.
He got his start working under Richard Williams as supervising animator on Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
Callbacks to previous episodes.
That just gives me I don't know why, but I don't understand that. Why that changes your perspective on something. It doesn't really make a difference to my life, but it makes a difference to me now watching this movie today. I know that he's, come from there and he's worked on that. Makes it even. I'm gonna be looking at the movie and being like, is there an animator's eye on some of this stuff?
Well, yeah, if you were watching some of Brad Bird's live action
exactly
stuff.
Yeah.
Do you want to go watch the movie?
I do.
Okay, roll the movie. Okay, let's talk about it.
Go on.
Go on.
Go on.
Go on, you first.
Who's more?
How'd you feel about that?
I think it's very hard to watch films when Shosh is in the room.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
A lot is nonsense to her.
I'm trying to figure out what exactly was the issue because
I think we should ask her to come in and tell us what her problem is, but she's too sick to get off the couch.
No, she asked me why don't the inhabitants of the year 800,000, whatever it is, remember any of the past.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, if 800,000 years go by and the world suffers a catastrophe like the moon breaking up, and there's an apocalypse and, all literature and historical record and all that kind of stuff is lost to the ether, then why in the hell would people remember
She's saying that
things?
there are lapses in plot coherency because I think it's
why
is it that the Morlocks know, but the Eloi don't know, right? The ones above don't know,
think
but
that
the ones below...
That the Uber Morlock knows because he's been reading Hartigan's mind, not because he knows.
No, because Alexander doesn't know, any of the stuff to do with, after the moon broke up.
Maybe the Uber Morlock has been around for 800,000 years. That's the difference. But but the Eloi are human, regular, human people, from what I understand.
With no superpowers. I have some things with the plot that bother me. Not to the point where I don't like the movie. I still like the movie, and it's interesting because I haven't seen it for a long time, so it's interesting to sort of see how I think about it now versus back then. But like there are some things that sort of bug me. I feel like it dips in the middle there, like it kind of it gets a little
when
slow
he arrives,
when he arrives
in the future, yeah, it dips a little bit until they start chasing them.
Yeah,
like the Morlocks come out and start chasing them, but they do have to establish, the current climate.
Yeah, it's yeah. Well, I mean, do you want to start from you? You said you don't have too many notes.
I don't have too many notes.
I'll tell you.
That's
mine.
just what it is. That's just too many notes.
Let's run through them like we do sometimes.
Okay.
So the beginning of the movie, the music is epic.
So that's what I wrote. Klaus Badelt's score. Tick. Done. Klaus Badelt, if you don't know, was responsible for the score of the first Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
He worked for the Hans Zimmer company, which is why it sounds very Hans Zimmer-ish. It's a lovely score. It gets stuck in your head.
It's really interesting. It gets stuck in my head so much that all these years later, if you were to have asked me before we watched the movie to hum the opening theme, I wouldn't have been able to do it. But it was as soon as that first note played, I was transported back to my Ibum. Right?
Your Ibum, yes.
And I was like thinking...
We used to watch it quite a lot, though.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's really cool. The two lines that you and I quote non-stop from this movie, just for some reason I can't take it.
I know it's right.
Emma! Oh! Brilliant.
Yeah.
So when, Emma gets killed at the beginning, his girlfriend gets killed. Do you want just very quickly... It's a film about a man in the... What year did you say it was? 1895?
I would say... Okay, no. So the book by H.G. Wells was published in the movie. They say 1894. Wikipedia says 1895. Okay. I don't know who to believe, to be honest.
Might have been right on the cusp.
On the cusp. It could have been December 31st, 1894. Exactly. 1984. Yeah, so... What were we talking about?
So I was just going to say
All right. So it's set in 1899, I believe, because then it says 4 years later.
Yeah.
After Emma's death, when he actually invents the time machine.
Yeah.
And then when he visits the hologram Vox in the New York Public Library in the future,
2030.
in 2030, he says Alexander Hardigan, born in, I can't remember when, but died in 1903. So it's 4 years later. So, and it would make sense that it would be 1899 because he stops outside Central Park and there's a guy driving around in a car, which is something that's new, and he's interested, and he's like, oh, I'd really like to stay in Japan, but I can't.
So it's basically this movie about this professor of physics, and quantum whatnots,
leap.
Yes. He's about to propose to his girlfriend. He proposes to her. They get mugged in the park, and she gets killed by the robber. And he creates a time machine to go back and try and prevent her death, finding that he can't do it,
right?
Because it would create a paradox.
So but he doesn't know that.
He doesn't know that until the end of the movie,
right?
So and that was, by the way, something that was hard for me to wrap my head around when I was younger. That was the thing, was that he says, you invented the time machine because of Emma's death,
right?
And you are the inescapable result of your tragedies, right?
But that's the thing. It's very simplistic, and I think that's what a lot of people had issues with. Was that they added that element of Emma, which wasn't there in the original novel, and that's what the entire thing hinges on, and it is quite simplistic and very easy to understand. But anyway,
but it's I think that it was great that they added it just because it was so.
It's got more of an emotional payoff,
weight,
more of an emotional payoff. I think that maybe a lot of people find that the H.G. Wells novel is a lot more philosophically deep. I guess. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, no. So I just wanted to give some context as to what Emma is. It's when she gets shot. I kind of think that his character arc and transformation is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. He starts off very very nerdy. Yeah. Very what is this contraption? Yes. And I kind of like that he goes to just sort of we have to we have to fight even when we're scared sort of thing is really cool. And he becomes sort of very, very heroic just because he sort of comes from this time and he's seen all of these things. I mean, he's seen it sped up. He's watched it on fast forward.
Right.
But he's seen a lot of different things. It's just really cool that he sort of comes to this realization that he can.
So I'm trying to think now,
affect
having
the future.
Right. I'm trying to think, having just watched that, where is his character arc? Because if you think about it,
You mean where does the change happen?
No, I'm trying to think where he begins and where he ends up. Obviously, there's the aesthetic change, which is that he's less nerdy and he becomes more action hero, stubble, a little bit Indiana Jonesy, and instead of being kind of wet behind the ears and whatever, he becomes more sort of active.
Mm-hmm.
He's got agency. But at the beginning, he also has agency because he invents the time machine in order to
It's a different
fight
kind
something.
of agency, though. He spends most of the movie being very tortured by this thing. He's haunted by her death, and it's sort of like watching him go through the grieving process and gaining acceptance through the fact that he sort of sees. It's what he says to Kaylin, the kid. When he's saying to him, we sometimes have to fight even when we're afraid. He's saying we have to accept what's happening to us even if we don't want to. And there's a moment there where he kind of goes, I know. Like, believe me, I know. And I think that's basically where he ends up, is this more peaceful, less selfish place. And that's where he kind of starts making more selfless decisions.
He says sometimes we need to accept and sometimes we need to fight. And he's kind of fighting the entire way through the movie because he doesn't want to accept the fact that Emma's dead.
But I think he's trying to make the distinction between accepting the things. It's that mantra, right? Oh, bloody hell. Just punched the pop filter. Yeah. It's that mantra of, give me the strength to accept the things that I can't change, and to get the strength to change the things that I can, or whatever.
Right.
I'm not, whatever. But I think that's kind of where it's at, like where he is at the end of the film. And that he does have the strength to make that change and to destroy his time machine and his ability to go back to the past, which I guess he doesn't want to do anyway, because what is there for him there anyway?
But he sort of creates a new life for himself, and well,
actually, he sort of mooches off the life of these other people, making a very grand assumption that they want him to stay.
So around the halfway mark, there's a very stark change in aesthetic and narrative when Alexander accidentally goes too far into the future and he ends up in the world of the Eloi, who are living above ground, and they're living they sleep on the sides of cliffs in these sort of boat-like contraptions that hang off the side, and that in that way they're safe from the Morlocks, who are the sort of night to their day.
They're the
species.
Underground dwelling, sort of evolved monkey-like, hairy versions
who use the Eloi for food.
Yeah,
like they survive by eating them and coming up above ground and eating them. It's kind of like the movie's split in two like that.
Yeah,
which I find interesting.
And it does dip in the middle there. Like, it's as you said, they have to establish like what the status quo is now.
There's a few quiet moments there.
I don't mind quiet moments. It's just listen. Their language, their made up language, is a little bit naff. Right?
Okay, so there's a trivia corner piece here, but John Logan.
We'll go there soon.
We'll go there soon. I will grab this little tidbit out of trivia corner, just to. That was me grabbing it out of trivia corner.
It was great.
John Logan is responsible for the language. John Logan, the screenwriter, actually made up the language. So it's not like, a linguist came up with it, or, J.R.R. Tolkien invented it.
Well, that's the problem, is that when someone starts, just going, a blibbly blicky, just like, it also sounds like, the people who are saying it aren't saying it with an accent, at least like
so this is what I said to you in the middle, that 8,000 years and the Irish accent has survived.
I just didn't remember it being so Pocahontas-like when I was watching it.
I was thinking Pocahontas.
I remember,
but that's where the white savior thing comes from.
We were watching Avatar and we were going, it's Pocahontas in space, and it's like...
Anthony Hopkins, he's
Pocahontas in space.
Yes. Damn your eyes, man.
Just to go a little bit backwards, is that, how we talk about sometimes how I notice things about films that I'd never realised before?
Right, yeah.
I never realised that... I knew that Emma had gotten run over by horses in the second time when he tries to go save her, but I didn't realise that it was the guy with the car,
Yes.
leaving the car off the brakes. Like he says at the beginning,
Ah,
I'm always leaving the brakes off.
Ah.
And what he does is you see him in the background trying to fix the car.
Right.
It had gotten stuck like it does at the beginning when Alexander first meets him.
So Alexander like pulls the brake
Yeah.
to stop it from rolling. Yeah.
Exactly.
And then in the second part, when he comes back again, so
This
that's
thing,
obviously what happened.
it
yeah.
flies away from the guy and it scares some horses. And you know, that's what runs her over. I just never clocked that they had set that up
Right.
with that little thing about the brakes. I just thought that was a little, you know, it was cool.
Yeah, that's nice. What's very interesting is that I noticed a lot of detail.
Yeah.
That I knew was there before. I knew that there was a lot of thought that was put into this. But I mean, there are a lot of things wrong with the movie, and we'll get into it. And this is one of those situations where it's like, I love the movie, warts and all, but there are things wrong with it.
Yeah.
But
Welcome to my Van Helsing corner. Would you like to sit down?
Indeed. There's a lot of detail in there that's very rewarding that when you notice it. And a lot of things that are sort of peppered into the original narrative of the novel that couldn't have been there in 1895.
Yeah.
Which I mentioned before in the pre-bit. That I just thought was I just think that's great. You know, that whole idea of him coming into 2030 New York and chatting to this girl who talks like a modern woman,
and he's looking at her like, all right.
All right, okay, and you know, swiping the card as well, and in order to release the bike from the bike park thing, the cycle rack. How did they know?
How did they know?
Yeah, and you know, and the colonizing of the moon and all that kind of stuff. I think that that all of these sort of like futuristic visualizations, a la Back to the Future Part 2, I find that very, very interesting, and chucking that into a vintage story like that, I really got a kick out of it back in 2002.
Did not get a kick out of that. She was like mumbling at me that she's like saying, they're just making up futures, and I'm like, yes, because we don't know what the future is.
That's what they do. Anyway, I think that Samantha Mumba is seriously miscast, and it probably should have been given to an actress, because she wasn't. I mean, she apparently, her film career like completely stalled because of the failure of this movie, and she was in a few like Irish movies after that, a few small Irish movies. But I think she was a singer first of all, wasn't she?
Why are you asking me? Aren't you supposed to know?
I think she was no, because I didn't actually do any research on Samantha Mumba. This is from memory, but I think she was a singer, and sometimes that works. You know, because I'm not sure that she was trained as an actress. I'm not sure that she had the talent as an actress necessarily. But like, say, somebody like Billie Piper,
or Lady Gaga,
or
Madame Gaga.
Yeah, I think that sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. In this case, I don't think it did, and I'm not sure that it's the movie that's necessarily the problem.
Right. I really like the dark tone of the latter half, and the, you know, like just how sort of very. Like
it's kind of violent. Like there's
the bones,
and that sort of stuff.
It's very sort of very creepy.
I think this was a PG. It is a PG.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard Josh saying it's a little bit scary.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's quite a hard PG for 2002, considering, you know, that by that point they were making PGs to be PGs.
Yeah.
And you know, sort of towards the like at the beginning of the 80s and 90s, PGs were a little bit harder. I like the darkness of the latter half of the movie. There's a Planet of the Apes vibe, which is there in the 60s version as well, but in the 60s version it just feels kind of cheap TV, sort of Land of the Giants time tunnel
60s.
Kind of thing. Yeah, 60s, but you know, there are 60s movies that had production value, and there are 60s movies that felt like they were using TV sets. And you saw the design of the Morlocks from the 60s. It's
well, I mean, the design of the Morlocks in this is not much better.
We'll get into that as well. That's also another thing for Trivia Corner. But the design of the Morlocks is a big problem for me. I appreciate the fact that they did them practically. I do.
Where they could.
Yeah, where they could. But there was a discrepancy between Stan Winston and the filmmakers, and I'll get into that in a minute. So should we visit Trivia Corner?
Yes, let's visit Trivia Corner.
Here we go. Trivia Corner.
Corner.
Gore Verbinski, who directed the first 3 Pirates movies, The Ring Remake and Mouse Hunt. Mouse Hunt was the only one he directed by this point anyway. He took over the last 18 days of principal photography after Simon Wells began suffering from extreme exhaustion.
Ooh.
So Wells returned for post-production. I don't know exactly what point in principal photography he actually took over. I was trying to find information on that, and I couldn't. The pool of bones looks very Verbinski-ish. Verbinski-ish. Guy Pearce did most of his own stunts and occasionally got frustrated when he wasn't allowed to do a few.
Oh.
And this next bit of trivia relates directly to the previous bit of trivia. Guy Pearce broke a rib during the filming when he tackled the Morlock from the side.
I love how you set those two up.
The initial designs for the Morlocks, the Stan Winston studio team were more faithful to the original book's description as brutish ape-like creatures with claws of moles. But director Simon Wells and the producers wanted changes made to accommodate the human performer and made them more humanoid, which angered the original artists. Ultimately, the Stan Winston studio team were not pleased with the look of the final Morlocks, and neither was I. Or the decision to film them in broad daylight as opposed to night when they're supposed to be shown.
Yeah, it really makes no sense that there's that whole daytime kidnapping sequence when they're supposed
it should
to
be at
nighttime.
night. Yeah. And it's another thing that happened with the Dream Factory.
Yeah.
Which is a short movie that I made with my wife and Cy did the special effects on, was that we had a prosthetic for a cute creature.
Yeah.
And our cinematographer decided that, and I told the cinematographer that because the makeup artist wasn't 100% experienced in special effects makeup, and she had said she was. So she finished with him in the makeup room, brought him out to the set, put him in front of the camera, and I'm sitting there at the monitor, and I'm going, "This looks bad."
Yeah.
And everything stopped. And my wife and I were conferring, and the makeup artist came out and said, "It looks fine. What are you talking about?" And then the assistant director came out and she said, "What's going on? Why aren't you shooting?" And I said, "Well, because it doesn't look good." And she said, "Well, we got to shoot. We don't have time. We don't have time." That's her. That was her job, was to make us move along.
Yeah.
But it didn't look good. So I asked the cinematographer to shoot him in shadow as much as possible, and he didn't. And you can see it in the final thing that it looks like shit.
Yeah.
So
I also remember spending, because you'd said to me, like, how possible is it to sort of smooth that over with with VFX.
That was the mentor that asked us to do that. I knew from the get-go it wasn't going to look good.
So, I mean, listen, I think that maybe now, with some of the knowledge that I have, and also the tools that, sort of you have in After Effects now, like Mocha has a lot better, like, facial tracking and also the ability to warp certain, textures onto facial movement. I think that would have been, quite good. But, it was, for my skill set back then, it just
well, it wasn't just that. I think it was also the technology that I had seen in feature films up until that point. There was a movie called The Hole, directed by Joe Dante.
Yeah.
And one of the child actors, I think, had some acne or something, and they tried to smooth it out, and you could see it. It was so obvious, and it drove me insane.
Yeah.
And the same thing happened with Johnny Depp in Sweeney Todd, that they tried to smooth out his pores or something like that. And it just looked bad, and it's just I knew that if in feature films of the day they weren't able to do that, then we were not going to be able to do it in After Effects in 2015.
Listen, at the end of the day, it just came down to a lot of like frame by frame hand fixing that was just, it wasn't worth the amount of time because I had other effects shots to work on.
Right. So what I'm saying is that obviously Stan Winston and his team believed that shooting them in shadow at night would have been a lot more frightening and a lot more believable looking.
Yeah.
And I do like the fact that, as I said, I do like the fact that they're practical, but you can see the cracks and you can see way too much of them, and they just don't look. Yeah. They don't move very well. They don't. Their
faces don't articulate very well. Right.
Exactly.
Like if you, one of the things that I wrote down for VFX Attic is they articulate much more when they're in CG than they do when they're in their sort of prosthetic makeup. And that's like, you have to either be consistent with that sort of thing and make them not be able to move their eyes as much as they, do in CG, and you have to match it, but they didn't.
Right. So the next bit of trivia. So here's a little interview snippet that I got from the Los Angeles Times, I think from the Time actually, from 2001, 2002, where Guy Pearce mentions that the studio or the creative team or somebody had said to him that the Time Machine is the star of the movie, to which Guy Pearce replied, "Or maybe the Time Machine can do the interviews then." Which I think is a great response.
Very good response. Also, who said that to him?
I have no idea. Tact. I hope it wasn't Simon Wells. Anyway, there were some real surprises when Pearce saw the finished film. The opening sequence in which the Dean of Columbia University finds Hartigan conducting experiments with his students outdoors was removed. That's a deleted scene. And at the end of the film, Pearce was surprised to see his character holding hands with the female lead Samantha Mumba. He said, "It's not my hand. It's not her hand. It wasn't how I saw the character." Now, that's an insert shot, and it's very close up of their two hands, and it's obviously been sort of tacked in there. But I can understand why he would feel that way.
I can too. I think that the romantic relationship is so not necessarily, and it's not really...
It's not implied.
It's not implied, no.
It's just something that they kind of chucked in there. And I think possibly because, maybe test screenings, focus groups, I don't know, but... Anyway.
Studio interference.
Yeah. This was originally scheduled for release in December 2001. It was bumped to March 2002 because of a scene involving a meteor shower crippling New York. The filmmakers were concerned that the scene would stir memories of the September 11, 2001 terrorist attack on the World Trade Center. A lot of films were edited, retouched. The teaser trailer to Spider-Man, I don't know if you remember.
I do.
With the Spider-Man trapping a helicopter in a web in between the World Trade Center, which was shot just for the teaser trailer. It wasn't supposed to be in the movie at all, and it wasn't. But they pulled that immediately. Book versus film. Some differences between the book and the movie include Alexander is never given a name in the book. The narrator only calls him the Time Traveler.
The Time Traveler.
The Time Machine is built purely for scientific... What's wrong with me?
Scientific? No, leave it in.
The Time Machine is built purely for scientific... I tried. All right, then. The Time Machine was built purely for scientific exploration in the book and not to change the past like in the movie. Oh, God. Yeah. Are you good? You got it? Can you do this?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I really don't know. All right, let's go.
Okay. The time traveler escapes the Morlocks by way of the time machine and returns to his own time in the book before going on another time journey to an unknown period, after which he does not return. And we also talked about this in the pre-bit. Vox and Hartigan talk about time travel. H.G. Wells is mentioned in the book the movie's based on, which I think is
rad.
Great. I like that. What I thought about while watching those parts of the movie was that the exchanges between Hartigan and Vox are my favorite part. My favorite parts of the movie. I always get really engrossed in that. It's really interesting.
You really want there to be more.
I really want there to be more. And I also thought it was a bit strange that that Vox talks about Hartigan without making the connection that is the same dude. Anyway, that's it for Trivia Corner.
Can I try for a no prize before we move on?
Okay, go ahead.
My no prize here is that he's an AI, Vox.
Right.
And so, his whole thing where he goes, because one cannot travel into the past, right? To him, it's absolutely impossible that this could be the same person.
Right.
Because it doesn't compute that someone can time travel
right.
to this AI.
However, 800,000 years later, after having spent a lot of time with an Eloi...
He doesn't say his name, though. He doesn't
say his name, but he does say, I also remember you. Time travel, and he has that knowing look on his face because he knows that there's no way other than time travel that he can still be him at that age and be there 800,000 years later.
He's evolved too.
He's evolved, yeah.
Isn't that really cool?
It's really cool.
And a no prize for me.
Right.
Oh, right. I don't get a prize because
you don't get a prize. You don't get a prize for any of the other games we play either. So there you go.
Winning is the prize.
Winning is the participation.
Participation is its own reward.
Right.
Anyway, yeah, so Trivia Corner.
Trivia corner.
That was very good. Well done.
Very
Lots
good.
of research. I'm very proud. Very impressed.
Okay. Would you like to go up the? Oh my God! Would you fix this bloody banister?
No, if you don't like the banister, you're not going to like what we find on the floor in there. There's ectoplasmic residue. It's the real thing.
Oh, very good. Very good.
Shall I do the jingle?
Oh, please do.
Join me in the VFX attic. Where else can you see VFX in an attic other than VFX attic?
Huh.
It's a little bit different.
Just a bit.
It's like when you see a new title sequence for Doctor Who, right? And they think that they're being so flash and swish with it, but you're going, I like the other one better.
Yeah.
Do you want me to do it properly?
No, that was great. I'd stick with that.
All right, then. Wait, better than the original?
No.
No. Okay.
But different. Just different.
Just different.
Kind
It
of
really is like a
kind of-
Doctor Who opening sequence.
Kind of like
then.
Peter Capaldi's clock thing that they
like-
nicked from some
Yeah,
guy
some
who
guy off the internet who did it
After
better.
Effects, yeah.
Oh, dear. Anyway.
What have you got for me in
What have I
VFX
got for you?
attic?
Well, there's a lot of use of CG in the film. We've already talked about the sort of transition of the Morlocks, from being practical effects to CGI effects. There's a couple more shots like that, mostly at the end and this was one of the things that I had a problem with not with the effects, but just with the logic of the film, which we didn't talk about this before, is, like, Shosh said this, and this is something I agree with.
Well, that he
her on.
reversed the polarity of the neutron.
Yeah,
field.
like, she said, like, how did he know that his machine can do that? She said, since when does it have this power? And it's really interesting, because if they would have set some sort of thing up of, like, him stopping the cogs from getting stuck at some point during the moon explosion, like, just something to show that this is dangerous, or this could
Right.
destroy the machine. Like, but I have a couple of problems with that, and we'll go to
you wanted some kind of exposition about not crossing the streams or something.
Yeah, like, I think that if you're going to do something like that, you kind of have to, like, there's foreshadowing of the thing where, with the car and the
Right.
horses. So, foreshadowing's not a bad thing, even if you're doing reversing the polarity of the neutron flow.
Right. But I mean, the logic is there that he's basically reversing the energy, like when the
go for a no prize. What is happening at the end there? Because I don't understand how he's blowing up the underground base and it stops very conveniently right there at the opening. Like the light that's coming out is not destroying everything there. It's just
okay.
destroying
So
the
that
underground
part
stuff.
of it, that part of it is a whole. That's a good question, actually.
Thank you.
No, but everything.
No, but go for the no prize.
But the idea is that he's aging everything instantly.
Yeah.
And that's what that white light does, and he's reversing it in order to sort of make it happen to
I guess
everything
there
else.
is kind of an expositional thing. Like, we see the picture of Emma get destroyed.
And
we see his fingernails
we see
grow.
the Uber Morlock.
Did you notice that when he's holding
Yeah.
the thing, his
Yeah,
fingernails grow? That's really cool.
Yeah.
The
Uber Morlock dying.
dying, yeah.
But
also an effect I've got.
He's
written down
basically
here.
accelerating time
Yeah.
and everything that touches that white light. And I believe that the fact that it's underground means that everything below ground has that effect on it, and everything above ground is protected.
Okay.
That's the idea of it. I mean, I did say that there is a certain amount of oversimplification of the scientificness of the liquid.
You're trying to set me off again.
I'm just trying to say words.
He's trying to get to the end of the podcast.
At the end of the sentence, God damn it. This isn't happening.
Oh, but it is.
Oh, but we got another segment to do when we're done with the time machine.
So I won't get stuck on it then. But just to say that sort of confused me. But there's a shot there where we see practical stuntmen. In the prosthetic, stuntmen, walking through the tunnels, and then the light goes through, and there's a bright flash, and it sort of covers up the transition between real and digital as they sort of crumble into bones. It's a lockdown shot. It's very it is what it is. So there's a few shots like that where
You had a big problem with the there's a blue screen shot in 2030.
the steps up to the library.
Yeah, up to the library. Yeah.
I've written it down.
Yeah.
Janky blue screen steps. I'm sorry, I don't take notes.
When
very
was the
clearly.
last time? Do you have any idea when the last time they used a blue screen was? Because everything changed to green at a certain point.
Oh, man, I wish I knew the answer to that question, but it was just very jarring. There were several things wrong with it. It was the fact that you could see the outline, you could see the blue,
you could see that it was a blue screen.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, and because I saw behind the scenes footage or anything. I knew that because we were looking
because
there's a halo.
That wasn't in behind the scenes footage that I saw either.
Right.
They only talk about the shots that they think are successful in that stuff. Right. But like, you've also got the very janky way that the pedestrians sort of walk by him, but not by him. It's like they're shot separately.
I would say that there's a couple of like layers there. Yeah.
There's obviously some layers there, and it's like you said that you think the steps are real, but I'm not even sure that all those steps are real.
No, not all the steps. I said the first 3 steps. It's whatever he's right next to,
or what he's standing on,
or what he's standing on.
And it really took me out of it, and it looked very flat. There was no depth to it, and it looked 60s. No, but it looked really bad.
No, but you've also got to take into account this is 2002.
Yeah,
and if there are issues with the Burly Brawl in The Matrix Reloaded, and there are issues with the effects in Van Helsing.
Yeah.
There are issues with the effects in The Mummy Returns.
Yeah, I think that when you have just a couple of shots in a movie, right, like in Jurassic Park where it's CG,
right.
So they're putting all of their effort into that. But when like a VFX fest like Van Helsing, so, there's going to be janky shots,
right? So this is what I was talking about also last week when we were talking about Van Helsing. From 1993 to 2004, things just kept escalating.
Yeah.
Once you get into a movie like this, which is somewhat effects driven, but not as much as Van Helsing.
There are a lot of VFX, but there are not as many VFX shots that. And by the way, I'm going to talk about some VFX shots that I think were very successful, and if you think about the technology at the time, are very impressive.
Right.
But I think that a simple blue screen shot.
Yeah.
Is not something that you can really get away with, like like as in to ruin it at that point. So that's kind of where my problem is the fact that it's a blue screen shot, and this is supposedly in 2002 something that people are supposed to be very good at. You know, so it's like it was kind of odd.
But
to
even
me.
today, blue screen or green screen is can still look very, very janky.
It can.
I mean, if you look at something like the opening of Spectre on the helicopter. You look at things like Black Panther, the fight at the end between Warmonger. Is that his name? Fearmonger? Killmonger. It's a monger. Maybe it's fishmonger. Kookaburra. So yeah, it's there's a lot of like blue screen green screen stuff that doesn't look great. But then you look at The Mandalorian and what they've done with
virtual production.
Wow, it completely changes the game.
Yeah, listen, I think that it always comes down to the artists and the technical people behind it, and what they're able to do in the compositing at the end of the day. But I'm just saying that that there are shots in this movie that are really good. And look, the same thing about Van Helsing, and any movie that we've watched, there are going to be shots that are really good and shots that don't work. And look, this is a movie that had several VFX houses working on this. ILM was one of them, but there are
There's
several.
K&B as well.
There was Cine something, I've forgotten. But like I didn't write them down. That sucks. Or the VFX supervisor because I'll tell you why. There were so many VFX supervisors for different departments in different places that it was just like there wasn't like one, or maybe there was and it's just not written there. But like I couldn't find one person who was consistently mentioned in all the different places. But let's move on.
Okay.
So some scenes that I really like are the greenhouse scene. The first time that he travels through time, we sort of see the pocket watch, and then it sort of starts moving backwards, and then it goes to black with the sound effect. That's really cool. But then, the first time we see him move forward through time is this lovely motion-controlled rig shot, where the camera, what they had was just, him sitting in the time machine, prop, and they had lights all around him that they had to remove. And they had, sort of like the greenhouse had to be put in, like all the plants, all the flowers, the window had to be put in, the vines climbing up the side of the window, and the snow coming up and going down. That's some hard shit in 2002 to do, to make it look organic. And also they kind of make it look stop motion-y, which is really cool. Originally, I thought it was stop motion back when, but on closer inspection you can see it's
I think it's more to evoke the look of a time lapse.
It really works,
which is why it looks jerky.
Everything there is CG, including the cars, the boxes that go in front of him, the mannequins, all the windows that go, all the things moving around him were, and so they had to match move everything with that. It's why it's a motion controlled rig, so that they can get a really good clean track. I really like that shot. Traveling to the future. I really love the moon breaking up and all of those effects. I like. It's a simple effect, but Vox is a cool effect. That he's got
like motion.
He's got like a kind of ghosting, sort of like trails behind him when he moves, which is really cool. And not like a revolutionary effect, but it serves a purpose to set him apart from the rest of the scene, and I think that's really cool. Also, the really fast traveling to the future when he gets knocked out, and all of those rock formations are happening around him. That's all CG, and they've got sort of like complex meshes that are sort of disintegrating. That's really cool. The Uber Morlock disintegration is an effect that, if you judge it by today's standards, does not look great. Yeah. But there are some things going on there that are really technically cool.
It reminds me a lot of Last Crusade.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Oh, sorry.
No, there's a layer on top where it's kind of
morphing. Yeah.
And that's a really cool effect.
Yeah.
I love it. I remember seeing something about it on Corridor Crew. Right. They were talking VFX Artists React. They talk about that shot. I want to watch it again now that we've discussed it. But what they did with the Uber Morlock is they had Jeremy Irons on a green screen. They had his hands around guy piss and whatever. And then they had like several
great Total Recall moment there.
Yeah, they had to track the motion of the 3D model of him that they did to. I don't know why I'm doing this.
He's moving like a Muppet.
He's moving like back and forth in the shot, like on the green screen. He's hanging from wires as well, right? And they're moving him back and forth. And then what they had to do was match that motion, and they had several layers. They had like sinew and skin, and they had skin and like muscles underneath, and bones, and the bones disintegrating, and having it decay, and the eyes fall back in the head. So there were lots of different complex layers on top of that. It doesn't look great again by today's standards, but I think that the amount of work that went into that shot is pretty cool. So. That's all I've got to say about that, and I do like the VFX work on the lights around the machine and all of that is pretty cool.
There's a lot of quite a few environment shots that you see the big wide shot of New York City at the beginning of the movie, and you also see the big wide shot of I think it's supposed to mirror it of the cliffs.
Yeah.
When he first goes into the future. And I liken that to the sort of things that they were doing back in that sort of time period. Like, for example, Chicago as well. They did something like that. Like every time they had to do something set in the past, they always did those big matte paintings.
Yeah.
And I just think that they're absolutely gorgeous, and I would have a still of one on my wall if I could get one.
Matte paintings are really cool. Yeah. Well, you can make them digitally now. And they look good and. Yeah. Whatever, but like it's not something that's done so much. So that's it for VFX Attic, and I'd burn the trousers that you're wearing.
Why?
Just because you've been sitting on the floor, and as I said, the substance of the floor is...
God! What is this shit?
Just take it all off.
Okay.
Strip down, Johnny.
All right.
VFX Attic. Good.
Very good.
Thank you.
Closing thoughts on The Time Machine 2002.
Here's the thing. I feel that, and this is what I've been thinking about recently, is that in these podcasts, I don't know about you, but I don't really say whether I would recommend the movie. Like,
I
to
never
other
recommend
people,
anything to
other
anybody
people.
because I don't know what people are going to enjoy.
Yeah. And I think, this is something that Pogo was saying to me as well, was, it's kind of hard to put yourself, if you haven't seen this movie, you don't have the nostalgia factor, it's hard to put yourself back then and sort of say, this is of its time and this is that. So, I would say, unless this podcast has kind of piqued your interest and, whatever, like, I'd give it a miss just because it's not. I don't know if it'll appeal to people who didn't see it back then.
However, I would say that sometimes I watch a movie that I think, oh my god, that was a big pile of shit, and then I watch the special features and I hear from the filmmakers what they were thinking, what they envisioned, what they were intending to do with it, or they talk about layers underneath.
Yeah,
that
but
I
not
may have
everyone's
missed.
you. They're not all going to go back and listen to the commentary.
That's fine. But what I'm saying is that somebody may have seen this film in the past, thought it was shit, then listened to this podcast, and might get an insight into it that might make them rethink it.
Right.
And that's great. And if not, that's fine too.
My thoughts on the film are that I do still enjoy it, not as much as I did when I was younger. And I think especially when we're doing what we do, which is to analyze and pick it apart and whatever, I have noticed, like, I think that also I now kind of look at VFX shots a little bit more closely and go,
with wide creepy eyes,
like I'm doing to you now.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm doing strange motions or eyes at you. I don't. I don't have an explanation.
You could be doing anything you want. You could be, stripping
Wanking
down
under
and
the
doing the.
Oh, sorry, don't be crass.
Oh, don't be crass.
You can take that out if you want, if you think it'll bring down the level. Anyway.
Yeah.
So that, I don't know what my final thoughts are. No, So I still enjoy it, but it's kind of gone down a level for me.
Okay, that's fair enough. Fair enough.
You're having so much trouble today, aren't you?
I'm having a lot of trouble.
What are your final thoughts?
My final thoughts are that I enjoy it. I don't... Here's the thing. I haven't seen it for a few years, but I watched it more than you did, I think. Mm-hmm. And I think I've seen it more recently than you have. Mm-hmm. And I know what the issues are. I knew what the issues were going in. So I know that I find the sort of practical suits of the Morlocks to be hokey. I think that Jeremy Irons is in it for way too short an amount of time to make any kind of impression. And I think that there are certain holes in logic here and there and whatnot. But to me, I think it's a worthy update of the novel. I read a review about it that somebody had written that it was a pointless remake, and I don't see that at all. I think it's a lot of fun. It moves by very, very briskly at 1 hour and 35 minutes. I think it's exciting in certain places. I enjoy Guy Pearce's performance, and I do too. Most anything with time travel in it. I also think the prop of the time machine itself, apparently it was very, very expensive. There's a lot of glass in there, and you can see that it's real glass and not just plastic.
It's really quality.
It's really
as a
nice.
Prop, yeah.
I want that.
Where are you going to put that? Where are you? Gonna
not full size, but like it would be nice if there was a sort of scaled down replica that one could put on a shelf. That would be very nice. But it's a really, really sweet prop that I think is what I thought about, in the same way that John Carter influenced a lot of things like Flash Gordon and then Star Wars, etc. There's a lot of things that when they made the movie John Carter made it seem derivative when really that's where it came from. So I found it interesting that you're watching The Time Machine, a movie called The Time Machine, and it's a static vehicle. It sits there in one place, and everything changes around it. Whereas for something like Back to the Future, and a lot of other time travel movies like Bill and Ted, etc., the time vehicle has to move, and it has to propel through really time and space. And you might think that might make the time machine pedestrian because of that, but the time machine came before all of that, and it probably didn't occur to H.G. Wells in 1895 before there were, proper automobiles that used to move the time vehicle should move through time and space. And I think that what Simon Wells and co, Gore Verbinski included, probably were able to do with that static time machine was really dynamic and really interesting. And I enjoy it.
There's a lot of visual interest in this movie, like you said. But no, I'm just pulled out of it by a lot of the plot things. But I'm glad we did this one. It was a good one.
Yeah, I think that also adding the, as we talked about before, adding that sort of emotional tragedy that propels him forward is a lot more interesting than just, I'm going out for scientific discovery right now. I'll make a time machine and let's go.
What if?
What if? Okay, well, that brings us to the end of our discussion of the time machine. Stay tuned for a talk about Scream 2022, which we went to see a few days ago. So if you have not seen the movie, you can turn us off now because we are going to talk spoilers.
So if this is where you're leaving us, thank you very much for joining us.
I've been Johnny Gross.
I've been Simon Gross.
I was going to say I've been Simon Gross, but I haven't.
And I've been Johnny Gross.
Well, there you go.
But not really.
He's been him.
And I've been him.
What?
What? Sorry, I just realized what you said. What I said. I need a break. I need to go to the bathroom. Okay. You will pause the recording, and I will go bathroom. And you
stay tuned for Scream 5. You'll positively scream with delight at our special bonus conversation about the movie Scream. No, not that one. The new one. Confused?
Always.
So welcome to our bonus chat about Scream 2022, or is it Scream 5, or is it 5 Cream? Are you going to be okay?
Continue.
Okay. Right. Spoilers abound. So, we went to see Scream 5 the other night. What did you think of it?
So, in general, I actually really liked it. I thought that it was really brutal, which was great. I'm really glad that they went a little bit further. There were some things that I felt were a little odd.
At the time, or is it fridge logic?
It's. I think it's fridge logic. I think it's things that I thought about afterwards.
Right.
But so I'll talk a little bit about. First of all, Skeet Ulrich.
It's Ulrich. I have no idea.
Liechtenstein. So he's like heavily CG youngered, as it were, I think. Like, or they smushed about his face, like they blurred him.
Something happened to him. Yeah, he looks a bit weird. Or he could have just been old. And looks different.
And looks weird. Yeah. So okay, fine. But it's a cool sort of like addition. I do kind of think that where she ends up later on, his daughter, is kind of cool. That she kind of kills the killer with like a crazy psycho stabbing.
Yeah, and then she wipes the knife.
Which I mean, I hope they don't do another one. I hope that they sort of just leave it at that.
They originally decided. I read an interview with James Vanderbilt, the writer, and he said that they were not writing this movie or making this movie with an eye on a sequel, because a lot of times that happens and then the movie doesn't do well. Sinister Six, Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man 2, things like that. So he said that he just wanted to put everything that he could into this one Scream movie. You've got the one chance to do it. How would you really take advantage of the fact that you've been given that opportunity? Pack as much into it as possible. You got the legacy characters. You're going back to Woodsboro. To give it that as much as what he had as a writer as possible, and not to think about doing a sequel. And I really hope, even though here's a bit of movie news for you. This week, Scream dethroned No Way Home from number one at the box office, and I think that's great. I think that it's good to see movies battling at the box office again, because
it's also good to see a movie like Scream, like, taking sort of the lead. Like, you don't normally see a lot of horror movies do that. I think, did Invisible Man sort of have like a really warm reception?
I think it did. I need to double check on that. It was definitely critically well received.
It's a good movie.
But like slasher movies specifically, the last slasher movie that I saw was Halloween, the remake in 2018, and then they brought out Halloween Kills this year, which was critically savaged. So you don't really see a lot of slasher movies anymore, and the fact that they're going back to what reawakened the genre back in 1996 is, and the fact that it's so good as well.
And it's so well done.
Yeah.
I had some issues with it just on sort of like, I have a thing that in the Scream movies, I'm always looking for certain things that indicate that there's two killers.
Yeah.
I'm looking to see which killer did what, right? So, there's these Zach Cherry videos on YouTube. Do you know who that is?
No.
So he's a guy who really analyzes the Scream movies, and if you're interested and you're still in the mood because we've just watched the movie, you should definitely check it out. But he does like a video on who killed who in Scream 1, who killed who in Scream 2. And in Scream 1, he points something out that's really interesting, is that Stu kind of always holds his hands above his head before he stabs someone. There are several kills in the movie, like the principal, and there's one where I think he attacks Sydney in the house. That's him, and he's able to point out, like, this one slashes and kills like this, and this one kills like this, and you can see it in how he holds the knife. And in the second one, Mickey's left-handed. There's even a deleted scene where they talk about...
And there's also, like, when Randy gets killed, there's lipstick on his hand, like she's kissed his hand. Do you notice that?
No, I didn't notice.
So that was Debbie Salt that killed Randy.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is that she had to use her left hand because all of the killings were done by someone who was left-handed. Right. And if she would have used her right hand, then it would have given away that there were two killers.
So the issue I have with all this is that from Scream 4 onwards, from Scream 4 and Scream 5, you've got at least one of them is a petite girl. And they always use these big burly stuntmen.
Exactly.
So you can never really,
And I think she says, the girl says that she kills Dewey, right? And she says, Amber, that she kills Dewey. And it's like, he's literally lifted up off the ground by these two knives. And I'm like, not that a girl couldn't do it, but that the stature of the person doing it. And obviously it's more imposing like that, but it oftentimes feels...
It was a great kill.
In the last two movies, right?
Dewey was a great kill, I think.
It was a great kill. And it's... I can't pinpoint why, but it's an example of a legacy character dying that holds weight and is actually... it doesn't feel... like
wasted.
So
I was chatting with a guy on Facebook in the Empire group called Mike Common. Shout out if you listen to the podcast. I don't think you do, but anyway, hi. He is the Scream fan, and he pointed out that even though my issue with the movie in general was that the killer reveal was very weak.
Yeah,
and I thought that it was a little bit disappointing to me that Dewey was killed by somebody who had no connection to anything.
Yeah.
So if you go through the previous killers, Scream 1 to 4, you've got at least one of the killers is personally connected to Sydney.
Yeah.
Right? So you've got Billy, who's connected to Sydney. Stu is the tag-along. Mm-hmm. You've got Debbie Salt, who's connected to Billy, therefore connected to Sydney, and Mickey's the tag-along. You've got Roman, who's directly connected to Sydney as her brother, and Jill is her cousin or niece. Niece?
Cousin?
Right.
Cousin.
And then you've got the other kid who I can't remember. I haven't seen Scream 4 in a long time, but he's the tag-along.
Yeah.
Right? And in this case, they're both completely disconnected from everything. They're just fans.
Apart from the fact that Amber lives in Stu's house.
Yeah, but Amber living in Stu's house doesn't connect her to anything. It just means she moved into Stu's house. And I feel that that was a little bit disappointing. Also because, you've got Sam, who's the quote-unquote final girl, who's connected directly to Billy. I just thought... I was expecting perhaps for there to be a third killer. That would be the twist.
Do you know about the ending of Scream 2 that never was?
No.
Speaking of third killers, that when she walks away from the media circus at the end of the movie, and there's sort of like this shot that pulls back and you see the bell tower.
Right.
There was supposed to be a ghost face killer standing in the bell tower overlooking everything that would sort of set up
cool.
the third one. Yeah. And it would be like the first time that, the killer wasn't revealed or something. That would have been revealed in the next one. And there was like an interesting thing that never was in the third movie, was that it was supposed to be that everybody who was killed in the movie was part of some sort of ghost-faced cult, and that all the people who had died sort of get up and sort of, reveal that they were all in on it and, trying to get at her or something like that. I don't remember exactly.
That would have been very, very creepy.
Super creepy. And so, like, I would have liked it if there was a third killer, or if Sam...
went nuts and started her own killing spree
like
afterwards.
that at the end, if she would sort of have, looked at the ghost face costume and sort of like there would have been a hint that maybe she's gone over the deep end. She liked stabbing, what's his name, and that sort of starts, that continues Billy's legacy. So I don't know, like it's.
So my comparison of Dewey's death was to Han Solo. Han Solo. Was that I thought that his death was quite possibly the best death of a legacy character that I've seen in recent years, in that it's emotionally charged. He's murdered by his own son, and that facilitates his move over to the dark side. There are repercussions and consequences to his death, and it echoes throughout the other two movies, whether you like them or not. And I think that there's also a really great payoff, no matter how much you may dislike Rise of Skywalker, anybody out there, but the fact is that scene between Harrison Ford and Adam Driver on the top of the Star Destroyer, is really, really strong and really emotionally resonant, and it sets him. It's sort of a full circle, sets him on the path to good. And I think that Dewey's death, while it was very strong, and I really did feel the emotional resonance of it, just because I liked Dewey, and also I liked the fact that, and the fact that he was on the cusp of reconciling with Gale. It was very tragic, but at the same time, there was nothing behind it. It was just some kid who decided to go on a killing spree, and I love that idea of toxic fandom. I think it's very meta, and I think it's great. But I needed like that little bit extra.
You needed
I need
one
that soap
killer.
opera connection.
You needed one killer who was, toxic fandom and all of that, and we want it for the fans.
Other killer to be doing it for personal reasons,
for some kind of, because
it's about rage, isn't it?
Otherwise, this could be set anywhere. It doesn't have to be set in Woodsboro, right? The whole point of it being set in Woodsboro is that it has this carnage in its history. It has all these connections to. Basically, it all starts with Maureen Prescott, and Billy's mother, Billy's father,
yeah.
That's a whole different movie.
And Cotton Weary. So that was the thing that the trailer for Death on the Nile came out not so long ago, and my wife and I watched Murder on the Orient Express, the Kenneth Branagh version, and I was thinking to myself, like, I've seen the 70s version so many times. And I wonder what gives this movie legs. Why is it that I can watch a remake and still be completely enthralled, and even though I know the killer reveal, or killer's reveal, and I think here there was no mystery to piece together, and that's what buggered it for me slightly.
I think me too.
I enjoyed the movie, but that was my issue.
That's part of what bugs me about the whole who killed who thing. Like, you're trying to figure out who it was, and it's like, it's hard to do that when there's no real indication of the whys behind things.
The motive was very weak. But the thing is that what I was saying to Mike Common on the Empire group was that the the killer reveal is only good for one viewing.
Yeah.
And he said to me, no, it's not. Because if you look at Amber, Amber's wearing the ghost face boots when she's in the when she's by the fridge in the basement, in the garage. You can see that she's got bruises on her, early on in the movie. And there are little hints here and there that rewards sort of repeat viewings. And I agree with that, and I'd like to go back and watch it again.
I really want to see what Zach Cherry puts out about this movie, because I'm interested to see his analysis, and because he watches them really with a very critical eye, and it's really cool.
So let's talk a little bit about the meta aspects of it. First of all, the title is very much meta because when they came back and they made Halloween, instead of calling it Halloween 9 or 10 or whatever it is, 25, or Halloween the Return or Halloween the Reboot, whatever it is, they just called it Halloween. So and that was the joke, was that each Stab movie goes up in number, and then when they get to Stab 8, it's just called Stab, and it's a reboot, and it's directed by Rian Johnson. I just thought that was really hilarious, and the fact that they then titled the movie as a trolling of the audience, I just thought was really cool.
I really love the news anchors who are like going, Stab? Why are they calling it Stab? It should be Stab 8.
Right.
Like in the movie.
And there are little like self-referential things about, you remember in Scream 2 when, there were new pictures of Courtney Cox on the internet. She said, it was just my head, it was Jennifer Aniston's body.
Yeah.
So there's another one of those where they're talking on the news about Courtney Cox's bangs or something like that. I vaguely remember while I was watching the movie, but it's been talked about a lot online. And that's the bangs that she had in Scream 3, and that's been talked about a lot. And I just think that's a great little reference there.
Yeah.
I love the idea of toxic fandom, and it's very timely. It's a very timely motive. It just wasn't as strong as the sort of personal connection was.
Again, it would have been great if it was supplemental to the sort of personal connection. But I enjoyed it. I would have given it 1 3/4 thumbs up.
Right.
Because apart from that, it was.
Oh, so that's
really
a continuing on from our mini. So that was my half. That was what I took off my half for. I think that, in general, in terms of jump scares and slasher movies being scary, slasher movies never really scared me. They're not particularly frightening. So that to me is never a.
Well, I don't know if you noticed, but during Dewey's death, I was squirming around in my seat quite a
really?
lot. Yeah, because it's a legacy character that I really like, and I knew from the moment that the doors closed that he was going to bite it.
Right.
But it was
obvious,
a very brutal death. And it just it made me squirm about a lot.
Why. There was a few of those. It was, and I appreciated the fact that they went 18 with it. Yeah,
and also there was Wes's death. That was he spent so much time.
Wes being a reference to Wes Craven as well,
sort of opening fridge doors, and the music would go up,
and then
he'd close it, and then there's no one standing behind it.
That's another example of trolling the audience.
It was. They did that 4 times in that sequence. And then he goes and closes the front door, and the Ghostface killer's standing behind him. That's right, it was very cool to me.
The other thing I wanted to say was that I like the fact that the legacy characters had as much to do as they did, and that they were in it for most of the second half of the movie.
Yeah.
I thought the callbacks were well executed, and I'm glad that when they were in Stu's house, there were no flashbacks. There were no echoey callbacks.
I really love the
echoey
reveal.
Voices.
I love the reveal of how we find out it's Stu's house, that the camera suddenly pulls out, goes backwards, and we see so it's so well revealed, Sorry,
and also
it's so well revealed.
Yeah, and also you can't have a Scream finale without Sidney shouting "fuck you" every 5 seconds.
Yeah.
But in general, I thought it was a lot of fun. I would watch it again, and I'm definitely looking out for that.
I will,
5,
mister.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking out for that 5-movie 4K box set. There it is.
5 cream.
Yeah, 5 cream.
That got me.
Well, so there it is. That was our Scream discussion. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks so much. We will see you next time when we talk about a film.
Yes, on What's Our Seat Number? Goodbye.
Bye-bye. What's our seat number?